Welcome to Holmes on Health, the podcast where nutrition, fitness, and hormones meet health span, and science meets real life. I'm Dr. Alan Holmes, a recovering emergency physician turned expert in hormone optimization, metabolic wellness, and living life fully optimized. Each week, we dive into the tools, truths, and evidence-based therapies that help you build a stronger body, sharper mind, and more vibrant life. Whether you're curious, confused, or already optimizing, you're in the right place. Thank you for being here. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Holmes on Health. I'm Dr. Alan Holmes. So welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of the supplement series. If you caught part 1, you know about the foundational supplements that all of us should be taking, and they should be a part of everyone's daily routine, in my opinion. Today, we're going to get a little more advanced, where we're going to talk about supplements that people are going to want to think about to really optimize their health, not just fill in gaps. Today, we're going to talk about essential amino acids, colostrum, specific types of magnesium for targeted benefits, and probiotics, specifically Akkermansia. These aren't going to be essential for everyone, but they can take your health and your performance to the next level. So with that, let's dive in. We'll start with magnesium. In part 1, I mentioned the different forms of magnesium and how they have different benefits. So let's take a bit of a deeper dive, because this is where magnesium supplementation really gets interesting. The first one we're going to talk about is magnesium glycinate. This is magnesium that is bound to glycine, which is an amino acid. It's good for calming the nervous system. This form can be highly bioavailable, which is good, and it's also gentle on the digestive system, which is a bonus. It's perfect for sleep, for anxiety, and for muscle relaxation. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 400 milligrams, about an hour for sleep, may be the optimal timing of it if sleep is what you're looking to improve. Next up, let's talk about magnesium L-threonate. Now, the important part of this one is the threonate. Threonate is a CNS transporter. Magnesium by itself doesn't do too well in crossing the blood-brain barrier in terms of getting into the brain. So the threonate delivers it into the brain by crossing that barrier. So this form was specifically developed to cross that blood-brain barrier, and studies show that it can increase brain magnesium levels by 15%, which can lead to improved memory and improved learning. So this is the magnesium you're going to want to think about for cognitive function and for brain health. It may actually also improve sleep along with the magnesium glycinate that we mentioned. The research shows about 2 grams daily, where this is going to provide you about 144 milligrams of the elemental magnesium. The bottle is going to say Magtine. This is a proprietary brand name for magnesium threonate. Next, let's talk about magnesium taurate. This combines magnesium with taurine, and this combination is particularly beneficial for cardiovascular health. So both magnesium and taurine support heart rhythm, blood pressure regulation, and vascular function. So if you have a heart concern or you want to support cardiovascular health, this is going to be the form for you. There's also magnesium malate, which combines magnesium with malic acid. This form is particularly good for energy production, and it actually may help with fibromyalgia symptoms. The malic acid is involved in cellular energy production, so you get the benefits of both of those compounds. So, how do you choose? Well, if you want better sleep and relaxation, I would go with glycinate. If you're looking for brain health and cognitive function, I would choose the magnesium L-threonate. If you're looking for heart health, I would pick taurate. And if you're looking for energy and muscle benefits, I would look at magnesium malate. For overall well absorption form of magnesium, I personally take magnesium chloride in the form of a brand called Slow Mag. And it is also possible to rotate between different forms of magnesium depending on what your goals are. You're just going to want to watch the total elemental magnesium intake for the entire day. Most people do well with 300 or 400 milligrams daily from all the sources combined. So let's move on and let's talk about essential amino acids. So amino acids are building blocks of protein, and they are actually the building blocks of the muscle. So we talk a lot on this podcast about the importance of protein intake. What we're saying and what we're after is actually the essential amino acids. So you might be thinking, why don't I just eat protein from food and won't I get all the amino acids I need? Well, that is a very valid question. And part of this is twofold. One is to really get the amount of protein, grams of protein that we really need to maintain and gain muscle mass. That is a tall order, and some people literally just can't eat that much chicken or whatever your preferred source of protein would be. The other thing to think about is the bioavailability and the efficiency of obtaining those amino acids. When you eat protein, whether it's chicken or whey protein or plant protein for that matter, your body has to break it down into individual amino acids before it can actually be used. This process takes energy and it takes time. Plus, we should also remind ourselves that not all protein is created equal. The protein you intake gets converted to amino acids. Some gets converted to glucose, some gets converted to fat, and some gets actually just excreted out of the body. Essential amino acids, one of the brands I prefer is Perfect Aminos. So Perfect Aminos, this is just the brand that I like, the brand that we sell in our clinic. I have no other personal financial affiliation with them. So it is a blend of essential amino acids, and they're already in the form where that the body can actually use them. So they absorbed, you take a dose, they get absorbed within 20 to 30 minutes, and they're immediately having an impact while only having a minimal caloric impact. So we're talking about, say, 4 calories per serving versus 120 calories from an equivalent amount of, say, a protein product like whey protein. So what makes them perfect? Well, they contain all 9 essential amino acids in the ratios that your body actually needs them for protein synthesis. So there's no excess, there's no waste. What's the benefit? Well, it enhances muscle protein synthesis. It leads to faster recovery, improved body composition, and better nitrogen retention, which is also important. They're especially valuable for older people who have decreased protein synthesis or are what we would say anabolic resistance. They're important for athletes during intense training and anyone who's trying to preserve muscle mass while maybe on a diet where they're restricting calories. The timing does matter potentially with amino acids, taking them on an empty stomach, either first thing in the morning or pre-workout or between meals. If you take them with proteins, maybe you're losing some of the rapid absorption advantage, but if this is less important, then timing is probably going to be less important as well. There is one study that showed that the perfect amino acid ratios were 99% utilized for protein synthesis compared to about 32% from whey protein. So that's a pretty significant difference there. Who should consider using them? Well, again, if you're over the age of 40 and you want to maintain muscle mass, if you're an athlete that's training intensely, or if you're a vegetarian and you want to ensure a complete amino acid profile, this could be a type of supplement that you should consider. The other would be if you're trying to lose fat and preserve muscle, meaning you've got yourself in a caloric deficit. This can be a way to ensure that you're getting adequate amounts or optimal amounts of amino acids without adding significant calories to your diet. They're also great for people who have digestive issues and they don't do well with protein powders like whey protein. The last thing I would say is that it's often difficult to achieve the optimal daily protein goal. If we're talking about a gram per pound of body weight, and let's say you're 180 pounds or 200 pounds, well, that's a lot of protein. And so amino acid supplements like this can be an alternative way to help you reach your goals. So let's move on. Let's talk about colostrum. This might be one of the most underrated supplements there is. Colostrum is the first milk produced by mammals after giving birth. It's literally nature's way of preparing a newborn's immune system for the world. But here's the thing. Those same beneficial compounds that help newborns can benefit adults too. So we're talking about immunoglobulins, lactoferrin, growth factors, cytokines. The research on colostrum is actually pretty impressive. It can strengthen gut barrier function. So that's your intestinal lining that keeps toxins out of your bloodstream. Studies show it can reduce intestinal permeability, which is linked to autoimmune conditions, allergies, and inflammation. For athletes, colostrum has been shown to improve recovery, reduce exercise-induced immune suppression, and even enhance performance. There's one study that showed Athletes taking colostrum had less upper respiratory infections during intense exercise or intense training periods. The immune benefit extends well beyond athletes, of course. Colostrum contains immunoglobulins. These are antibodies that can neutralize pathogens in your gut. It's like having a first line of defense right in your digestive system. There are also growth factors in colostrum that can help with tissue repair and regeneration. Some research suggests that there are benefits from skin health, as well as wound healing and even cognitive function. Now, for this one especially, quality matters. This matters a lot. You want it to be from grass-fed cows. You want it to be collected within the first 6 hours after birth and processed at low temperatures to preserve the bioactive compounds. So you can look for liposomal or enteric-coated versions to ensure the compounds survive the stomach acids. Dosing typically ranges somewhere between 1 and 4 grams a day. Take it on an empty stomach. Some people start with higher doses than that for the first week as maybe a load type idea, and then they go back to 1 to 4 grams a day as a maintenance dose. So who should consider colostrum? Well, if you have digestive issues or frequent infections, or you are frequently intensely training, or perhaps maybe you have an autoimmune condition, it may be valuable for you to go on a colostrum supplement. This also may be considered if you have leaky gut or chronic inflammation. Now, one more. Let's talk about probiotics. So we're focusing on targeted research strains of probiotics. Specifically, we're going to talk about Akkermansia. We're going to narrow it even further to a brand called Pendulum Life, which has a particular supplement called glucose control. Now, again, I have no affiliation with Pendulum Life other than it is what I sell in my own clinic. I've done quite a bit of research on these types of things, and their quality control processes and their purity are just top notch. Most probiotics on the market are what I would call spray and pray, meaning they throw a bunch of stuff, a bunch of different strains, and they just hope something might be helpful. But the future of probiotics is strain-specific, targeted interventions based on actual research and your goals. So Pendulum's glucose control contains specific strains that have been shown to improve glucose metabolism and insulin sensitivity. So we're talking about Akkermansia, different types of strains of Clostridium, along with other specific strains in their product. To be honest with you, I can't pronounce most of the words, so I'm not even going to try to butcher them in front of you. Here's why this matters. These bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. This feeds your intestinal cells and improves your gut barrier function. They also help regulate blood sugar by improving gut-brain axis communication around glucose metabolism. So this research is pretty compelling. Studies show that these specific strains can reduce hemoglobin A1C. Again, that's the marker that is an average of your blood sugar over the last 3 months. Can improve insulin sensitivity and even support weight management. So this isn't about general digestive health. This is about targeted support for your metabolism. Let's specifically talk for a minute about Akkermansia. This bacteria makes up about 1 to 4% of your gut microbiome when you're healthy, but it's often depleted when someone has a metabolic disorder, they're obese, or they have an inflammatory condition. Mansia feeds on the mucus lining of your gut. Now that sounds bad, but actually it's crucial for maintaining a healthy gut barrier. So when Akkermansia breaks down mucus, it stimulates your cells to produce more, keeping the protective barrier strong. It also produces compounds that improve insulin sensitivity and reduces inflammation. The challenge with Akkermansia is that it is extremely difficult to manufacture and keep alive. Most probiotic companies just can't do it, so it'll give you a dead strain of it. Pendulum Life has developed a proprietary technology that stabilizes the strains, which is why their products are more expensive, yes, but also much more effective. For dosing, you can just follow the manufacturer's recommendations. They're specific and they're research-based. Take them on an empty stomach for the best survival through the stomach acids. Who should consider targeted probiotics like these? Well, if you've got blood sugar issues for sure, if you've got metabolic syndrome, if you're trying to lose weight or have inflammatory gut conditions. One place that there is very promising research going on with Akkermansia and products like glucose control is for people that have been on a GLP agonist like semaglutide or tirzepatide. They have reached goal weight. They are transitioning off of the medication. These types of probiotics can help boost GLP-1 production and help with the sugar cravings, with the appetite control that the GLP-1 medication was providing. So they're also valuable for anyone taking multiple courses of antibiotics or has a history of gut issues in order to try to support that gut microbiome and decreasing the permeability of the gut lining. So remember, probiotics works best when they're combined with a prebiotic. It's a fiber that feeds the beneficial bacteria is what we're looking for. So make sure you're eating plenty of vegetables, fruits, and other fiber-rich foods, or also take a prebiotic along with the Akkermansia. So there you have it. Advanced supplementation for optimization. Target magnesium forms, specific benefits, essential amino acids for efficient protein utilization, colostrum for immune and gut support, and research-backed probiotics for metabolic health. Again, these aren't for everyone, and they're definitely not where you should start. You want to get your foundational supplements dialed in first: B12, vitamin D, creatine, magnesium. Then, if you want to optimize further and you have specific goals, consider these more advanced options. A few key points to remember. Quality matters even more so with advanced supplements. These are often more expensive to manufacture properly, so cheap versions are usually ineffective, meaning you get what you pay for. So do your research on companies and look for third-party testing. That's really, really important. If it is a solid supplement, then they should be confident enough in their product to have it third-party independently blind tested. And if they're not willing to take that step, then that should tell you something about the company and the quality of the product. Also, advanced doesn't mean better for everyone. So a person who is deficient in vitamin D will potentially feel more benefit from just optimizing their vitamin D level than going to some advanced probiotics strain. So address the basics first. Finally, the last thing I would say is supplements are just one piece of the puzzle. They work best when combined with good nutrition, regular exercise, quality sleep, stress management, and hormone optimization. They can enhance your efforts, but they can't replace the fundamentals. So, thank you for joining me on this deep dive into supplements. Remember, start with the foundations, then optimize based on your own individual needs and goals. Your future self is going to thank you for the investment in your health. I hope you found this episode informative. If you plan to make any specific changes to your supplement regimen based on what you heard today and what you heard last week, I would love to hear about it. Please leave a comment. Also, if you know someone that this information may benefit or may be helpful to, please share it with them. And until next time, thanks for listening and live life optimized. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Holmes on Health. If you found today's episode valuable, share it with someone you care about. And hit subscribe so you never miss a future episode. Want to get more of our content? Follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Alan J. Holmes MD. Until next time, here's to living life optimized. This podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have, and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.